Now we're going to talk about the diversity in transitions to parenthood, and this is really related all around the age of the mother and the father. So the mother, the fetus, and newborn are at highest risk when the mother is an adolescent or older than 35 years old. So if you know which ones are highest risk, those that mother's an adolescent or mother is greater than 35 years of age or advanced maternal age. So adolescent mothers, they have higher preterm or low birth weight infants. Strong social support promotes positive outcomes. Their infants are at an increased risk for childbirth, child abuse, and neglect. And it's important to maintain a relationship with the infant's father. So, if they have a relationship with the infant's father, the infant, they transition better and are better parents. Adolescent fathers, his involvement is often dependent on his relationship with his mother. So the father of the baby is dependent on his relationship with his mother, because his mother is the one who would transport him. Because we're talking, adolescents. Some of them don't have a driver's license, have a car, and they have to rely on somebody to be involved. So as a nurse, you should include him as much as possible. So anytime you're doing any type of teaching, talking about the baby, make sure to call him by name, to encourage him to come to the bedside, to include all of this teaching together. And just know that adolescent fathers need a lot of support. So you think grown adult males in a married relationship, they feel excluded. Imagine an adolescent father who can't get himself where he needs to go and has to rely on other people. They need a lot of support. Maternal age greater than 35, they experience a loss of control and sometimes feel socially isolated. So if, whether they've chose to wait until they're older than 35 to have an infant or have a history of infertility, they focused on their career and getting married later in life, they can feel socially isolated because a lot of their friends may have gotten married in their 20s, and by the time they're 35, their kids, their friends' children, or sometimes, teenagers, so where they're starting a new phase in life, their friends, their kids are entering high school and that type of thing, and so they can feel socially isolated. They really experience a lot of stress over deciding what they're going to do with their career. It's really focused on childcare, so, they've spent a big part of their life focusing on their career, and now they have this infant, and they have to decide what kind of childcare. Are they going to go to daycare? Do they have a family member? So if the mom is older, maybe her parents or his parents are retired and will be the primary caregiver. But, it's a struggle thinking I've waited all of these years to have a baby, and now am I going to go back to work and lose all I've worked for to have somebody else spend more time with my child, or what am I going to do? And their relationship, their, sex life with their significant other also changes greatly. So when the dad, the paternal age is greater than 35, they experience more positive than negative feelings. They have an increased love and commitment between the parents. So, basically the relationship is just more stable. And so they don't have as many negative feelings as sometimes the mom has. Okay, so other diversity and transitions, parenting in same-sex couples. So whether you have lesbian couples or gay couples, social support, culture and socioeconomic conditions, and personal aspirations. These are all very straightforward in your book. Just know, especially around the parenting for same-sex couples, those couples feel isolated as it is, and so then developing, who's the mom, who's the birth mom versus the support person. There's just a lot of feelings around that can be they struggle to be accepted, is the best way to put it. So again, just read over these pretty quickly in your book. They're all very straightforward. For the visually impaired parent, there's a box on page 517, box 22.2. So we kind of talked about earlier that visually impaired parents, their eyes just that there's no response to how their infant, they can't see their infant's facial expressions to be able to respond back. For instance, if their infant smiles, they can't see that to know to smile back. So things you can do is teach them to make facial expressions, since their infant gets no reaction from their eye contact. Their voice and that type thing can make a big difference. Hearing impaired parents, Section 504 of the Rehab Act of 1973 requires hospitals to use various forms of communication devices and resources for patients that are deaf, including staff members or certified interpreters who are proficient in sign language. Box 22-3 on page 518 talks about what you can do to promote parenting when they are hearing impaired. There are various ways to provide vocal stimulation for infants when the parent can't. It could be other people in their life. They can receive voice training, so just because they're not necessarily pronouncing words correctly, they can't hear that, just making noises helps stimulate their baby. Sibling adaptation. We can get a lot of different reactions from sibling transition, and they're usually manifested in behavioral changes from the older infants. Not the older infants, the older child in response to the new infants in their life. Reactions of siblings can be a result of separation from their mother, changes in their parents' behaviors, or when the infant comes home. So positive reactions would be they have an interest in the baby and they experience an increase in independence. So, when the mother says, well, I need for you to go, can you go get something for me? Or if you're hungry, can you get that for yourself? They have an increase in independence. Is positive reaction when the mother is constantly saying, I'll get to you in a minute, I have to take care of your brother or sister. So it's that, not feeling that they're being put on the back burner and that they're actually in this state of, just being very proud and independent and helpful. Negative sibling reactions can be a regression in toileting or sleep habits. So if they were fully potty trained, they may regress and start having accidents. If they were sleeping through the night, they may start waking up multiple times during the night. There can be aggression towards the baby and just an overall increase in whining, and that's just another way of getting attention. Okay, now we're going to talk about the acquaintance process, and this for sibling adaptation. This is the initial adjustment of older children to a newborn takes time, and parents should allow children to interact at their own pace rather than forcing them to interact. So there's a box on page 519. It's box 22.4 and talks about strategies to facilitate sibling acceptance of a new baby. So the definition of sibling rivalry, which is jealousy, increases after that initial excitement phase. So, as far as the timeline, they're excited and engaged, interested in the baby at first, and then kind of when that newness wears off is when they can regress and have those negative reactions.